Hello, my name is Jeff Bowl, and I'm the CEO and founder of a company called Stratis Bio. The company was founded around a natural product formulation I developed for my wife for a disease called CRPS, or complex regional pain syndrome. Complex regional pain syndrome is the most painful disease known to man. It's likened to having an amputation without anesthesia, and the pain doesn't go away. My background in research and pain research at Wellcome, GlaxoSmithKline, as well as a company called M4 Discovery, allowed me to put together a natural product formulation targeting specific ion channels, receptors, et cetera. And we'll talk about this in a minute, that I felt would impact the disease. And so today we have Chloe with us, and Chloe's going to talk a little bit about her experience with CRPS and how it impacted her life. And then as she began to take the product, what it did for her. So I'm going to share now my screen, and we're going to go into Chloe's experience. So first, I want to give you an intro to CRPS. If you're not familiar with the disease, you'll give a good idea what the disease is. And then we're going to talk about our strategy, how we went after CRPS. A little different than typical pharma approaches. And then we'll get into Chloe's story, and Chloe will lead us through most of this. And then we'll talk about some summary of results of other different modalities that we looked at, and then a modified formula that we're actually looking at for addiction. And you'll understand why we did that in just a little bit. So let me get the slide to go. So CRPS is really the worst case scenario when it comes to pain. It is the most painful disease. It's the highest on the McGill Pain Index. And there's a bunch of concurrent symptoms that can come with it, such as brain fog, allodynia, pins and needles, lack of mobility, gastric system beginning to fail, and called gastroparesis. It's a really horrible condition. And unfortunately, about 10 to 30% will respond to typical pain protocols. And so it leaves people really desperate as they have a prognosis of life with this horrible pain. Turns out about 70% of CRPS patients go through suicidal ideation, the last step before attempting suicide, and 5 to 14% actually attempt suicide. It's that difficult of a disease. That translates to about 7 people a day in the US. There's 2 types of CRPS. One is from an injury, known injury, and then there's type 2, which would be no nerve damage, and then occasionally around 10% of the time, and this is Chloe's case, it just shows up and we don't have a trigger. So let me take you through how this happens. So let's say you have an injury in your hand. You have a pain signal that goes through sensory neurons into the spine, and then the spine takes it to the brain. And in the brain, you perceive that pain. And then there's a concomitant signal that's an inflammatory signal, which goes back to the limb. And the purpose of that is to put immune cells there in case you have a cut, bacterial infection, as well as cells to repair the injury, etc. And this is supposed to be a single loop. And what happens in CRPS is there's a disconnect between what's called the sensory nervous system and the sympathetic nervous system. And so this disconnect between the two, you end up getting a vicious loop, a vicious cycle, where you have inflammation signal going back to the injured limb then sensing more pain from the inflammation, sending another pain signal, deeper pain signal, greater pain signal to the brain, which then sends a greater inflammatory signal, and it's just a vicious loop. And here on the right, you can see someone with it in their left foot, and you can see even the inflammation looks like a pattern maybe that came around the ACE bandage that was put on. But these folks are living somewhere around a 7 to a 10 in pain level. Here's an extreme case where the hand totally inflamed and became unusable. It is really, really a horrific disease. And again, very difficult to treat. 10 to 30% of of standard of care may help some. And typically folks don't go into remission. So it's a prognosis of lifelong suffering. And that's why we have such a high suicide rate. Along with the pain, there's quite a few other symptoms that can come with it as well. And so I'm not going to go through the whole list, but I want to give you an idea of how great the number of other symptoms that can come with this disease. Listen here on the chart on the right, you can have memory loss and brain fog. You can have blurred vision, poor focus. You have what's called pain insomnia. Many CRPS patients are not able to sleep through the night from the constant pain. So they're always tired, constipation, gastroparesis, which is paralyzation of the digestive system. So they're not able to eat. Decreased range of motion. Many of them have limited motion in the limb that was injured, stiffness and swelling in the joints from inflammation. What's interesting too is that hair growth can stop actually, and nails can become brittle or actually stop growing. And we have cases where the product restored hair growth and nail growth, tinnitus, just a wide variety of different symptoms. And what's also interesting about the disease is that it can travel. So let's say a person gets the disease in their right hand, it can travel to the left hand as well, or down to the feet, or to the whole body. And so it can take off, and just a horrific disease. Very rare. There's only a few million in the US that have it, about 200,000 new cases a year. So how do we attack this? We took an approach that's a little different than standard pharma. Standard pharma, you're looking to interact with a target for a disease, a protein target, and either activate it fully or turn it off fully. And what we decided to do was go after multiple targets and modulate them to see if we could dampen the signals. So we have 11 natural products. We're targeting greater than 20 proteins or targets that are involved in the pain pathways, ion channels, receptors, enzymes, cytokines, and small molecules. And we're trying to block the whole process. So we have natural products in there that block the initial receptors that sense pain. They're called nociceptors. And then we have products in there that are blocking that initial signal through the sensory neurons, sodium channels blocking those. And then we have products in there that would block the signal coming from the spine to the brain. In the brain, we have multiple products. One of them is called kratom, and kratom deals with your opioid receptors, but in such a way that they don't cause addiction. So we're using kratom. Kratom can only half maximally activate what's called a mu opioid receptor. The mu opioid receptor gives pain relief, but if you fully activate it, you can get euphoria and addiction. And then kratom itself as well, the two molecules in it block the other two opioid receptors. So we're dealing with those in such a way that we get pain relief without addiction, and then further other other signaling molecules in the brain, such as dopamine, etc. And then we start blocking the signaling that's going back into the inflammatory. So your cytokines, your NF-κB, things like that. And then when we get down into the hand, we're blocking the enzymes that cause inflammation like COX-1, COX-2, and LOX. And so basically the idea is to hit all of these, not necessarily 100%, but enough to in a concert, in a symphony, dampen the system down and get things back to normal. And it looks like we're getting there. So Chloe's going to take over now. And this is Chloe's life before she had CRPS. You can see she's an active young lady and in quite a few different things. And so, Chloe, if you wouldn't mind taking us through some of what you see here on the screen.
So my life before CRPS, I used to do hula. I did many performances. I also did karate. I go to karate tournaments. All of this was really consistent. Um, I would also do rollerblading, adding on to that, like ice skating too, especially with my family during the holidays. I traveled a lot. We did many activities. And I also rock climbed. I've done that for like a while, and it used to be a thing that we would always do together.
Wonderful. So you had a very active lifestyle for a 12 to 14-year-old before you got hit with CRPS. And it looks like you were having a great time.
Yeah.
How was school? What did you do in school?
School, I hung out with my friends a lot. We ran around a lot. We play a bunch of games, hang out. Everything was great. It was just pretty normal, I'd say.
Normal life. Yeah. And so with regards to CRPS, as I mentioned before, there's two main types. One post-injury. So my wife she had a surgery on her left hand, or post neuronal injury. And we have some folks that have that called type 2. But in rare cases, it just shows up. And I guess, Chloe, that's your case. It just showed up and you didn't know why. Is that right?
Yes. Um, is it okay if I go into it a
Mm-hmm.
little? So it was sixth grade in during PE, we were doing activities and we were supposed to be doing relay races.
Mm-hmm.
When it came up to my turn, I decided to run as fast as I could, but as soon as I stopped, I just couldn't. I felt like burning pain, and every t single step I take, it's like I'm stepping on ice.
Mm.
And um, that day, my mom was really concerned, so I was taken to the ER. It was 12 in the morning when they told me that it was a pulled muscle. It did not feel like a pulled muscle. So we just kept an eye on it and then after like around 2 weeks has passed, we were at an acupuncture appointment and my leg went blue and cold. So my
Mm.
mom CSF and we were there for around a week and they find like over 60 doctors. They finally diagnosed me with CRPS.
Wow. So you didn't injure yourself. You were just running hard and all of a sudden it showed up. Is that right? You, Chloe, you didn't actually stub your toe or cause an injury. You were just running really hard, and all of a sudden you get this pain. Would that be correct?
Oh, can you hear me? Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, that's fine. That's fine. So we have another individual that we've been working with that went swimming and came out of the pool and both of her feet turned color, and so this can happen rarely, in rare, but typically there's a known injury. And so now this is Chloe looking at her life after CRPS. And you can see some of the treatments here is ketamine treatment that she was that we'll talk about in a minute. But Chloe, you want to take us through some of those slides, some of those images?
Oh, yeah. So, okay. Um, on the right, me and my family, even though I did have CRPS, well, I still do, we still continue to travel, but just did limited things.
Mhm.
I also went to this camp that helped other people with chronic illness and EDS and much more. They were really accommodating with many of the stuff that we did. As you can see, I did rock climbing, but I was in this sort of chair that would help lift me up, but I was able to climb with my hands. We did many things like that too. Um, and in those pictures on the left, you can see me with my physical therapist actually. That was me in the rehab at UCSF trying to walk and yeah.
Yeah. You got a couple cute little doggies there.
Me and my mom, she wanted to go for a walk and I tagged along with her, but I stayed in my wheelchair, but it was still really fun.
Awesome. So basically, now you were kind of wheelchair bound, my understanding is, for the first year. And then after you had physical therapy and occupational therapy, you were able to get out of the wheelchair. Is that right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, and then here's a picture of the ketamine. The ketamine is a horrible treatment. It is a drug that is used in anesthesia. And for ketamine treatment, typically with folks that get the infusion, it kind of feels like you're in a dreamland or tripping. And I guess some people would pay to do that. But anyways, is that, do you recall the ketamine treatments? Were they pretty difficult?
Um, During it, I did not like the feeling. I just felt really out of it, but it helped me. Um, it lessened my pain for a bit and for a good amount actually, but then it would come back and I would have to do it again.
Yeah, that's common with ketamine treatments that you get the treatment and somewhere around 3 months or to 6 months later you got to come back. And what did it half your pain? Did it take it all away? How much did it take the pain away?
I'd say maybe um I'd say maybe took me down at least maybe 3 levels.
Hmm. So from a 6 to a 3 at halfway, is that right?
Yes, I
Yeah.
think so.
Yeah. That's okay. That's typical. So these are the different treatments that Chloe tried and had variable results. If you wouldn't mind going through those treatments, Chloe, and let us know what they did for you.
So, outside of the rehab, I did PT, OT. I also did mirror therapy, cupping and acupuncture. Um, and then I did CBD and THC. Um, and I also did ketamine, as I mentioned before,
Hmm.
water and some desensitization. Um, some of those were actually included into the rehab as well. And in the beginning, like as after I got my diagnosis, I was taking gabapentin, and I stopped after I think after a month because it actually put me in a really dark place, and I was told from my family that they could tell that I just seemed off and it wasn't myself. So she took me off of it.
Gabapentin can do that actually, cause a major psychological changes. So you tried, looks like you tried hypnosis. How did that go?
Um, it helped. It kind of did, but not not a lot. Not really. With walking, it kind of like just a little bit. We did this thing where you kind of like imagine that you have a special sock on that kind of lessens your pain. It's sort of like it made me think that, but it wasn't so helpful, but it helped.
Oh, good. So for those that are watching this and don't understand mirror therapy, in mirror therapy, what they do is they use a mirror to reflect your opposite limb, the one that's not injured, so that you can look at it and try to get your mind to think that is the limb that's injured and reconnect some of those synapses, reconnect some of those connections in the brain. And my wife did mirror therapy as well with her hand when she first developed CRPS. It's a common therapy. And so this is now looking with the product, the Stratis Bio product. And so we have before looking at the inflammation and then after, and then we have the pain level. So if you want to just describe how that all worked for you.
Oh, yeah. So, when I was taking the taking Stratus, it helps with my pain and especially my flares. In the beginning, I was a 6, and after taking it for the first time, I was lessened to a 4.
Mhm.
Um, and recently, it was able to go down to a half. That's the lowest I've ever been in, like ever, and it's great. So also I've been able to move more than usual. I'm able to do some activities that I want to, as in like I personally like cleaning around the house and it makes things a lot easier. Sleep has been easier too. I'm able to fall asleep better. Um, and it gives me hope for this to work and like probably be pain-free someday. And in general, just made me happier.
Excellent. Well, that's so good. I look at these pictures and I find them so remarkable and so excited for you. And then, like you said, a pain of 0.5. I guess you have never felt that since this whole thing started. Would that be right?
Yes.
Getting down to a pain of zero point 0.5. Was there any treatment before that was able to get your pain that low?
Never. I was never able to get that low.
Yeah. So we're hopeful, and then Chloe's going to be trying some protocols to see if we can drive remission. So we have developed a protocol that looks like it's driving remission in two individuals that have tried it. So we're very hopeful that eventually Chloe's going to be pain free. And so this is life after Stratis Bio. You want to take us through that?
Yes. So that the first picture in the middle, that's me at homecoming. Um, and the ones on the left, that's me and my cousin at Santa Cruz.
Mhm.
At the bottom, we were in Twain Harte doing like snow activities. The one on the right, uh, the one at the bottom, I was in LA for my birthday, just hanging out. And then same for the one at the top. That was us. We went to an Airbnb and they had goats there.
Excellent. So it sounds like you got back to almost normal life. Would that be right?
Mhm.
Yeah, and that's thrilling. I'm so glad to see that. And that for me personally has been one of the most rewarding things is watching people get their life back. So thank you so much, Chloe. I'm going to finish up with a little bit of summary here. Importantly, for those watching this is all self-reporting from individuals. It has not been done under an official FDA trial protocol. We're working towards that, but we've tried this product beyond CRPS, and we're looking at pain reduction, PR, and then opioid reduction. Um, Reducing the necessity for opioid in different pain modalities, and then NA is no opioid use during that scenario. So with CRPS right now, we're seeing 87% responding. We're at an N of greater than 20 or greater than 20 individuals, up to 80% pain relief, actually getting to 90 now, as you saw with Chloe. And folks are able to eliminate their opioids, many of them if they're using opioids. Here we have a back surgery with a spinal stimulator, and we saw 60% pain relief with the product, but no reduction in opioid use. This individual was taking one Vicodin in the morning a day. What the product did allow them to do is not have to take a rescue dose. And then we're looking here at a degenerative disc and stenosis pain. We saw 50 to 65% pain relief, which was absolutely equivalent to their opioid protocol. So they were able to eliminate opioids completely. Kyphosis pain, 80% pain relief, and 100% elimination of opioids. Neuropathy from scoliosis fusion, 100% pain relief, the burning feet, etc. And again, elimination of opioids, Ehlers-Danlos syndrome, which EDS, which Chloe mentioned, was at that camp, 75 to 100% pain relief. And the individual was not using opioids. We had an individual with an impacted tooth, which is not uncommon dental problems with CRPS patients because of the grinding of the teeth, and they think there's limited blood flow to the gums. But regardless, great pain relief in this individual, wasn't using opioids. We had an individual with lupus, very interesting scenario, 60% pain relief in 10 minutes, which is really would give rise to some interesting blood work studies to figure out what compounds are driving that. That would take us back to the targets that are driving the pain, but then greater than 85% pain relief in 1 hour. This person did not use opioids, and today they are becoming resistant to the product. They're not responding as well to the product. And we have one other CRPS patient that is doing the same thing, started out responding and not responding anymore. The broken vertebrae, compression fractures, 66% pain relief, and then no opioids used there. Fibromyalgia, autoimmune, 80% pain relief, and no opioids were used there. We have a crushed vertebrae. Two vertebrae were crushed in an accident, equivalent to the hydrocodone morphine protocol they were on. So when they use the product, they don't need any opioids at all. arthritis, greater than 50% pain relief, and multiple cases of that. And opioids were not used in any of those cases. And then this is just anecdotal. And early on in 2017, when we developed the product, my wife and I were planting an assembly of the original Christian church in Tampa. And we began to reach out north of us to plant another church. We're renting from a church building there to have service. And one of the board members, his daughter, was a heavy user of heroin multiple times a day. And using this product, she was able to reduce her heroin usage by 80%, the original formula. So that was exciting to us. And so not only were we looking at pain, but then we're beginning to look at addiction. And here now we're looking at addiction with methadone. So this is an individual that was on methadone for 14 years. 40 milligrams twice daily. Methadone has been used for heroin addiction. It's also used off-label for pain. So this individual had tried to eliminate methadone for years, not able to do it. Here we're looking at 2 to 3 months where they reduced their methadone to 5 mgs instead of 40 twice daily. And they had symptoms, but a great reduction in the symptoms: anxiety, restlessness, night sweats, heart racing. Nausea and diarrhea was 100% fine there. So good reduction of symptoms. Then they went to the formulation we have, and 5 mgs of methadone every night, so kind of half their methadone usage. And we see it's not quite as good in the reduction of some of these symptoms, but it was good enough. It was tolerable, and that allowed them to keep going. And then the nausea and diarrhea still had a full reduction of those symptoms. And then they went to, and that was for 2 weeks. At 4 days, they went to a half a Percocet nightly. So now they're off of methadone, and same response with the symptoms. They're very tolerable. Now, currently, they take a half Percocet for pain relief or flare-ups as needed, and that's once to twice weekly, and they are off of methadone. And this is really important. Methadone is very difficult because it has such a long half-life. So the symptoms last for so long. So most people can't get off of it. And she was off of methadone in 2 weeks and 4 days, which is really, really exciting. And then we have an individual that was addicted to kratom. Now, kratom is in the formula at low dose. Can people get addicted to kratom? I think so, depending on the amount that they're taking, as well as what I would call their epigenetic profile. Are they predispositioned to addiction? This person was. And epigenetics is an interesting field now. It's not the sequence of the genes, but it's which ones that are turned on and turned off. And it turns out that pattern of genes being on and off is given to you by your parents. So if you have a parent that struggles with addiction, you're predispositioned to addiction. This individual was. And they were drinking 6 to 10 feel-free kava kratom drinks daily, just massive doses. And those are $10 a pop. So we're looking almost $100 a day in this addiction. And so when they tried to cease, they had severe anxiety, severe nausea, headache, and uncontrollable tremors just right away. So they could not stop. And so going to a physician, they were prescribed benzodiazepine to deal with the anxiety, but they still had the severe withdrawals in day one, and they consumed beverage. Day two was the same. So they weren't able to eliminate the beverage. Day three, they lowered the volume of the beverage, but they still went through severe withdrawal. And day four, they took 2 doses of the formula, our addiction formula, separated by time through the day as they began to feel withdrawal symptoms coming on. Very mild withdrawal, no drink consumption. Day five, now just 1 dose of the formula. Day six, benzodiazepine only. And day seven, clear, no intervention. So very quick relief from kratom addiction. We're very excited about that because one of the questions about the formula itself is it does have low dose kratom in it, and can people become addicted to it? I don't think at that low dose, no. We're at 1/5 the dose people would use in an abusive scenario, but we do have a path forward if something like that were to happen. And so basically, we may have a breakthrough for CRPS and chronic pain and addiction. These data have not been reviewed by the FDA. I need to say that, but we're getting ready to put together the team to do those studies. We need collaborators to execute effectively, folks that are willing to help us as we set up these clinical trials. We need funding to execute effectively, to manufacture and distribute. Our goal is to be distributing by the end of the year or January in 2025. And we've already produced a production run of the product with an FDA approved facility. And so we're going to be tapping them to make the product and get it out to the CRPS community. So folks that are interested in helping us, you can donate at Stratis Bio via Venmo or Zelle at 813-358-8588. If you want to collaborate or you are interested in investing, you can email me at jpfohl_stratisbio, STRATISBIO at proton.me. And we have a pretty good investment program. Our website is up. It is stratisbio.com. And on there, you can see more data as well as the investment program. So thank you so much for giving us this testimony. You did so good. You did so good. You didn't even have to do a retake.
Thank you.
Yeah, so fantastic. So, hey, Mama, how did it feel to see your daughter with low pain down to around a 0.5?
It felt like it was just a dream.
Yeah, I can imagine. I imagine just start having hope again, right?
Exactly.
Yeah, yeah. So we're excited about what's going on and we're getting ready to launch and hopefully we'll have product out by January. So thank you so much, Chloe and Jenny Rose for being with us today. And we'll have this up on the web pretty soon, okay?
Thank you.
All
Thank
right,
you.
take care. Bye-bye.